When most people think about muscle loss after the age of 60, they imagine it as simply a natural part of getting older. The mirror changes, the clothes fit differently, and strength fades a little faster than it used to. But here is the surprising truth. This is not merely aging. It is a biological signal that something deeper inside the body is shifting. Scientists once believed magnesium was the cornerstone mineral for maintaining muscle strength in older adults. And while magnesium does play an important role in muscle contraction and energy metabolism, new research is revealing that two specific vitamins may actually be far more powerful when it comes to rebuilding muscle, especially in people over 60. Now, why does this matter so much? Because your muscles are not just about movement or appearance. They are your body's largest metabolic organ. They regulate how efficiently you burn fat, how well you control blood sugar, and even how long you live. In fact, muscle tissue communicates directly with the brain, the liver, and the immune system through tiny signaling molecules called myokines. When muscle health declines, your entire metabolic orchestra begins to lose harmony. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscles like the engines of a hybrid car. When those engines are strong and efficient, your body runs smoothly, converting fuel into clean, steady energy. But as we age, those engines begin to lose their spark plugs. The mitochondria, the energy factories within muscle cells, start producing less power. That is when fatigue sets in, recovery slows down, and even metabolism begins to stall. Here is what recent research reveals: two specific vitamins often overlooked in conventional nutrition discussions appear to activate the very pathways that magnesium alone cannot. They switch on genetic programs involved in muscle regeneration, mitochondrial renewal, and protein synthesis, three biological systems that keep your body strong, lean, and metabolically youthful. And that raises a fascinating scientific question. If these vitamins can restore the communication between your muscles and metabolism, could we actually reverse age-related muscle decline naturally, without relying solely on mineral supplementation? This is the question we will explore today, because rebuilding muscle after 60 is not about lifting more weights or taking more protein shakes. It is about understanding the internal symphony of nutrients, hormones, and cellular signals that decide whether your muscles rebuild or waste away. So stay with me as we break down the real science of muscle regeneration, the overlooked vitamins that outperform magnesium, the cellular machinery they activate, and how they can help your body rebuild strength from the inside out. And if this kind of science helps you connect the dots about your health, consider subscribing. I share this type of evidence-based insight every day. When we talk about muscle loss after 60, most people think it is simply because they are not exercising enough or because their metabolism has slowed down. But the reality runs much deeper. The decline in muscle mass, known scientifically as sarcopenia, is not just a mechanical issue. It is a biological signal, your body's way of telling you that the conversation between your muscles and metabolism has grown quiet. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Your muscle cells are in constant communication with your hormones, your liver, and even your fat cells. They send out chemical messages called myokines, which help regulate energy production, inflammation, and even immunity. But as we age, this crosstalk weakens. The receptors on muscle cells that once responded eagerly to these signals start to fade in sensitivity. It is as if the antennas that once picked up your body's messages begin to rust. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles as a group of students in a classroom. When you are young, the teacher, which represents your hormones and nutrients, speaks clearly, and every student listens and responds instantly. But after 60, it is as if the classroom grows noisy. The teacher's voice fades, and half the students no longer catch the instructions. As a result, the class does not function well. That is exactly what happens to your muscles. They stop receiving clear signals to repair and rebuild. This is also the reason why traditional mineral supplementation, like magnesium alone, often fails to produce real, measurable improvements in muscle regeneration. Magnesium plays a key role in muscle contraction and nerve transmission, but it does not directly influence the gene pathways that tell your body to grow new muscle fibers. It helps the machinery work, but it does not send the signal to turn the machinery on. Recent studies in cellular physiology have shown that after midlife, your body's ability to activate a process called muscle protein synthesis declines by almost 30%. This means that even if you eat enough protein or stay active, your muscles simply do not receive the same rebuilding signal they used to. And that is where the real mystery begins. What if certain vitamins could restore that signal more effectively than magnesium? If this is making sense so far, consider subscribing. I share this kind of science every day to help you understand how your body truly works from the inside out. Because the next question we will answer is this. If magnesium is not the full answer, then what exactly is happening at the molecular level that blocks muscle repair after 60, and what kind of nutrients have the power to unlock it again? To understand why magnesium alone often fails to rebuild muscle after 60, we need to look beneath the surface into the intricate molecular machinery that drives muscle repair. Every muscle contraction, every act of lifting or moving sends a biochemical signal deep into the nucleus of the muscle cell. This signal activates certain genes responsible for regeneration, growth, and energy balance. But as we age, this cellular conversation begins to break down. Magnesium plays an important role as a cofactor in hundreds of enzymatic reactions. It helps with nerve transmission, stabilizes adenosine triphosphate, your cell's energy currency, and keeps calcium in check during muscle contraction. But magnesium's influence stops at the level of function, not instruction. It keeps the existing system running, but does not reprogram it to rebuild. That distinction is crucial. Here is what recent research reveals. After the age of 60, muscle tissue undergoes a process known as anabolic resistance. In simple terms, it means the muscle becomes less responsive to growth signals. Even when nutrients and hormones like insulin and amino acids are available, the muscle's machinery for protein synthesis is sluggish. It is like having a factory full of raw materials, but with the assembly line running on half speed. Let me explain this with a visual analogy. Imagine your muscles as a construction site. Magnesium provides the electricity that keeps the cranes and tools working. But if the site manager, your signaling pathways, does not give the order to build, nothing new gets constructed. The machinery hums, but no progress happens. This is why so many older adults continue to lose muscle mass despite taking supplements, eating well, or staying moderately active. The real limitation is not the availability of materials or tools. It is the lack of proper signaling at the genetic level. And this is precisely where two overlooked vitamins come into the picture. These vitamins do not just assist in muscle contraction, they activate transcription factors, restore mitochondrial function, and enhance the production of proteins that literally rebuild muscle fibers from the ground up. Modern studies in muscle biology have identified specific vitamin-dependent enzymes that regulate these genetic pathways. Unlike magnesium, which stabilizes processes already underway, these vitamins act like ignition keys, turning on the molecular switches that awaken dormant muscle stem cells. They stimulate repair, enhance mitochondrial renewal, and restore the metabolic flexibility that begins to fade with age. This emerging understanding changes how we think about muscle loss in aging. It is not simply the result of weak muscles, it is the result of weak signaling, and when that signaling is revived, the potential for regeneration returns, even in the later decades of life. In the next section, we will uncover the first of these two vitamins, the one that directly interacts with muscle stem cells and awakens your body's built-in repair system, a nutrient that outperforms magnesium by addressing the root cause of muscle decline. The first vitamin that stands out as a powerful regulator of muscle regeneration after 60 is vitamin D. For years, it was thought of primarily as a bone vitamin linked to calcium absorption and skeletal strength. But what recent discoveries show is that vitamin D is far more than that. It is, in fact, a hormone-like nutrient that directly influences the genes responsible for muscle repair, growth, and metabolic balance. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Every muscle cell contains receptors for vitamin D called VDRs, vitamin D receptors. When vitamin D binds to these receptors, it does not simply provide structural support. It actually enters the nucleus of the cell and switches on genetic programs that control protein synthesis, mitochondrial activity, and stem cell activation. These are the very processes that determine whether muscle tissue rebuilds or continues to waste away. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of vitamin D as a master electrician walking into a dark room. The wiring is already there, that is your magnesium and other minerals, but the power switch is off. Vitamin D flips the switch, allowing energy to flow through the system and bring everything back to life. Without that signal, the wiring is useless. One fascinating study observed that when older adults restored their vitamin D levels, their muscle fibers began to express higher levels of proteins involved in energy metabolism and contractile strength. What that means in practical terms is that vitamin D does not just support muscle, it reactivates it. It tells dormant satellite cells, specialized stem cells embedded within muscle fibers, to wake up and start repairing damaged tissue. This signaling also interacts with insulin sensitivity and fat metabolism. When your vitamin D levels are optimal, your muscles become better at absorbing glucose and using it for energy, which helps maintain lean mass while reducing fat accumulation. The result is not just stronger muscles, but a more metabolically flexible body, one that burns fuel efficiently and resists fatigue. However, as people age, several factors cause vitamin D levels to decline. The skin becomes less efficient at synthesizing it from sunlight, and the liver and kidneys, which convert vitamin D into its active form, slow down their processing ability. This decline creates a chain reaction. Lower vitamin D means weaker signaling to muscle cells, which then leads to slower repair and more rapid decline. If this connection between your hormones, muscles, and nutrients is making sense, consider subscribing. I share science like this every day to help you understand your body's hidden systems. Because in the next section, we will move beyond vitamin D and uncover the second vitamin, one that works in tandem with vitamin D, but targets a different layer of muscle physiology. It is the nutrient responsible for restoring the mitochondria, your muscle's internal power plants, making it even more effective than magnesium at rebuilding muscle from the inside out. The second vitamin that has shown extraordinary potential in rebuilding muscle after 60 is vitamin B12. Often overshadowed by minerals like magnesium or calcium, vitamin B12 plays a far more critical role than most people realize. It is the nutrient that fuels the very machinery inside your cells, the mitochondria, and without it, your muscles simply cannot generate or sustain energy. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Every muscle contraction, every moment of repair, relies on a process called methylation, a biochemical sequence that turns nutrients into usable energy. Vitamin B12 sits at the heart of this system. It helps convert the food you eat into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the energy currency of your cells. When vitamin B12 levels fall, ATP production drops, and your muscle cells begin to starve for energy. Repair slows down, recovery becomes sluggish, and weakness begins to set in. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your mitochondria as thousands of miniature engines inside your muscle fibers. Magnesium keeps the spark plugs firing, but vitamin B12 is the fuel injector that ensures energy actually flows. Without fuel, those engines stall no matter how strong the spark is. Recent research has shown that vitamin B12 deficiency in older adults is directly linked to a loss of muscle mass, slower reflexes, and impaired balance. But the deeper story is about how B12 interacts with another essential molecule called creatine, which serves as a short-term energy buffer inside muscle tissue. Without adequate vitamin B12, your body cannot efficiently produce creatine. That means when your muscles need quick energy for repair or movement, the reserves are empty. At the cellular level, vitamin B12 also protects against something called mitochondrial fragmentation, a condition where the mitochondria, instead of forming a healthy interconnected network, break apart into dysfunctional pieces. This fragmentation reduces energy output and increases oxidative stress, both of which accelerate muscle decline. By restoring B12-dependent enzyme activity, the mitochondria can reform and begin generating power at full capacity again. The fascinating part is how vitamin B12 and vitamin D complement each other. While vitamin D awakens muscle stem cells and promotes regeneration, vitamin B12 provides the cellular energy those new cells need to grow and function. It is a coordinated dance. One signals repair, the other powers it. Together, they create the ideal environment for muscle rebuilding, something magnesium alone cannot achieve. When both these vitamins are working in harmony, older muscle behaves more like younger muscle, responsive, energetic, and metabolically alive. That is why scientists are now beginning to reconsider the hierarchy of nutrients for muscle health. It is not about more minerals or more protein. It is about restoring the intelligent communication and energy systems that drive true regeneration. In the next section, we will explore how these two vitamins do not work in isolation, but within a hormonal and metabolic network that involves insulin, cortisol, and growth factors, showing how your body's internal chemistry determines whether you stay strong or continue to decline after 60. To truly understand how these two vitamins outperform magnesium, we must look at the broader hormonal and metabolic network they influence. Because muscle regeneration is not just a nutrient story, it is a hormonal symphony. Every contraction, repair, and growth response inside your body is orchestrated by hormones like insulin, cortisol, and growth factors that either build or break down tissue. And as we move beyond 60, these hormones begin to shift, creating a biological tug of war between rebuilding and wasting. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Insulin, often known for its role in blood sugar control, also acts as an anabolic hormone, meaning it promotes growth. It helps shuttle amino acids and glucose into muscle cells, providing the raw materials for repair. But when the body becomes insulin resistant, which is common with aging, the muscles stop responding effectively. They lose their ability to absorb nutrients, and the repair process grinds to a halt. This is where vitamin D and vitamin B12 begin to work their magic. Vitamin D enhances insulin receptor sensitivity. It helps the muscle cell hear insulin's message again. Think of it like fine-tuning a radio station so the signal becomes clear. The moment that signal is restored, nutrients start flowing back into the muscle and regeneration resumes. At the same time, vitamin B12 supports this process by fueling mitochondrial energy production, which keeps insulin signaling strong and efficient. When your mitochondria are healthy, they burn glucose smoothly and prevent the accumulation of metabolic waste products that would otherwise block insulin's message. Together, these two vitamins reestablish the metabolic dialogue that aging often silences. Now, let us add cortisol into this picture. Cortisol is the body's stress hormone, and while it has its purposes, chronically elevated cortisol levels, common in older adults, can break down muscle tissue by increasing protein breakdown and reducing repair signals. Vitamin D has been shown to indirectly modulate cortisol's impact through its effects on the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, helping to restore balance to this system. When cortisol normalizes, the body can shift from a catabolic breakdown state to an anabolic rebuilding one. Finally, growth factors such as insulin-like growth factor 1 or IGF-1 play a central role in muscle recovery. Vitamin D helps upregulate IGF-1 activity, which in turn stimulates satellite cells, those specialized muscle stem cells we discussed earlier, to multiply and repair damaged fibers. Vitamin B12, by supporting methylation and DNA synthesis, ensures that these new cells divide correctly and mature efficiently. Let me explain this entire interplay with an analogy. Imagine your body as a construction site. Insulin delivers the building materials. Cortisol can either protect or sabotage the project, depending on balance. IGF-1 manages the crew that rebuilds the structure. But without energy and communication provided by vitamin B12 and vitamin D, the entire site remains inactive. These vitamins act like project managers who bring everyone into harmony, ensuring progress happens day after day. If this deep physiological connection between hormones, nutrients, and muscle renewal resonates with you, consider subscribing. I share insights like this every day to help you understand how your body regenerates and thrives naturally. In the next section, we will bring these discoveries together, revealing how restoring these two vitamins does more than rebuild muscle. It reawakens the body's natural intelligence, helping your metabolism, energy, and longevity return to a state of youthful coordination. By now, it becomes clear that rebuilding muscle after 60 is not about adding more supplements or chasing the latest fitness trend. It is about restoring communication, the biological language that your cells, hormones, and nutrients use to keep your body strong and alive. When vitamin D and vitamin B12 are optimized together, they do something extraordinary. They help the body remember how to regenerate itself. Here is what is really happening inside your body. These two vitamins activate complementary systems that feed into one another. Vitamin D switches on genes involved in cell growth and repair, while vitamin B12 powers the cellular energy engines needed to carry out those instructions. This partnership brings coherence back to your metabolism. It is like reuniting two halves of the same operating system. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as an orchestra. Magnesium is a valuable player, perhaps the violin section, but without a conductor and a rhythm section, the music lacks depth, and D is the conductor, directing the performance and keeping timing precise. Vitamin B12 is the rhythm section, providing the constant energy that drives the entire composition. When these two are in sync, the result is harmony, stronger muscles, steadier energy, and a more youthful metabolic rhythm. Scientists studying longevity now recognize muscle tissue as one of the most predictive indicators of lifespan. Not because it makes us stronger, but because it reflects how well our entire system communicates. When muscle mass declines, it signals a breakdown in metabolic signaling. But when it is preserved or even rebuilt, it reflects a reawakening of those communication networks that link your brain, liver, hormones, and immune system. Recent findings show that maintaining muscle strength beyond 60 does more than improve mobility. It influences inflammation, cardiovascular health, and even cognitive function. That is because muscle tissue acts as a reservoir for key molecules that regulate glucose, fatty acids, and even neuroprotective compounds. In simple terms, strong muscles mean a well-regulated body and mind. Vitamin D and vitamin B12, therefore, are not merely nutrients. They are molecular messengers. They remind your body how to balance growth with repair, energy with rest, and metabolism with longevity. They address the very root cause of muscle decline, the fading dialogue between your cells. When that dialogue is restored, energy returns, stability improves, and recovery accelerates. It is not about defying aging. It is about cooperating with it, giving your body what it needs to keep performing its natural symphony. In the conclusion, we will bring all of this together, revisiting how these two vitamins outperform magnesium, why they are central to maintaining youthful muscle function, and how understanding their roles changes the way we think about aging itself. When we take a step back and look at the complete picture, the story of muscle loss after 60 becomes something far more profound than a tale of aging or weakness. It becomes a reflection of how well the body remembers its original design, the intricate network of signals, hormones, and nutrients that keep regeneration alive. And what we now understand is that two vitamins, vitamin D and vitamin B12, have the power to restore that memory better than magnesium alone ever could. Throughout this exploration, we uncovered that magnesium, while vital, acts primarily as a stabilizer. It helps muscles contract and relax, but it does not ignite the biological systems that rebuild them. The real turning point begins when vitamin D and vitamin B12 step into the picture. Vitamin D acts as the activator, sending a signal to your muscle stem cells to wake up and begin repair. Vitamin B12, meanwhile, fuels those cells, giving them the energy and structure they need to grow, divide, and strengthen. Here is what is really happening inside your body when these two nutrients work in harmony. Your muscle fibers regain their ability to produce energy efficiently. The communication between your mitochondria, hormones, and genes comes back online. Insulin sensitivity improves, meaning your muscles can once again draw in nutrients with ease. Cortisol, the stress hormone that breaks down muscle, becomes balanced. And the genes responsible for muscle protein synthesis, the literal rebuilding of strength, are reactivated. Let me explain this with one final analogy. Think of your body as a grand library. Over time, some of the lights begin to dim, the pathways grow dusty, and the books, your genetic programs, become harder to read. Magnesium keeps the lights that remain on, but vitamin D and vitamin B12 come in and restore the wiring, clean the pathways, and reopen the books. Suddenly, your body remembers how to read its own manual again. That is regeneration at its purest form. The larger truth behind this science is simple yet transformative. Aging does not have to mean losing strength or energy. It means the body requires clearer communication, a reminder of how to function at its best. When that communication is restored through the right biological signals, muscles can rebuild, metabolism can stabilize, and energy can return naturally. So, as we close this discussion, remember this: real strength is not built from effort alone, but from understanding. When you understand how your body truly operates, how nutrients like vitamin D and vitamin B12 interact with your metabolism, you begin to see aging not as decline, but as adaptation. If this exploration added value or helped you see the science of your body in a new way, like this video and subscribe to join others learning how to optimize their health, energy, and longevity, naturally and intelligently.